Methods of manipulation, coordinates 2. How do they manipulate this? One of the coordinates, one of the methods of manipulation, a massively important one to understand, is one I've dubbed problem, reaction, solution, where you want to change society in a way that if you do it openly, you'll get resistance, massive resistance from the population. So what you do is you create a problem covertly, you blame someone or something else for it, you pass that fake version of the event through the unquestioning, pathetic mainstream media to the people, unquestioned overwhelmingly and certainly uninvestigated, and you want the people to react to the manufactured problem with outrage, with fear, and you want them to say, do something. What are they going to do about it? At which point you then offer solutions openly with changes in legislation and society and its structure to advance your agenda. And because of the problem, reaction, solution, you do not get the resistance here that you would have got without the manufactured problem. 9/11 is a bloody classic. Another way of describing this is ordo ab chaos, the Latin motto of the 33rd degree of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry: order out of chaos. Problem, reaction, solution. Create the chaos, then offer the order, your change out of that chaos. So like I say, 9/11 was a wonderful, classic, most blatant example of it. You want to change society, so you create a massive problem. As a result of that problem, you offer the solution, all there, written and ready, the Patriot Act in America and around the world, their versions of it, to change society and to launch a war on terror and an invasion of countries like Afghanistan and, by implication, Iraq. This is Zbigniew Brzezinski, President Jimmy Carter's national security advisor and a major mentor going back to the 1980s of Barack Obama. This is what he said in 1997 in his book. Moreover, as America becomes an increasingly multicultural society, it may find it more difficult to fashion a consensus on foreign policy issues, except in the circumstances of a truly massive and widely perceived direct external threat. Therefore, we create one, 9/11, and bingo, we then introduce what we say must happen to stop the terrorists. In other words, we change society and advance our agenda, the Orwellian state and all the rest of it. These buildings were brought down because they were made to come down. And similar buildings around the world that burnt for longer and were much more fierce never came down. And these are the only buildings of their kind who've ever come down because allegedly of fire. The official story of 9/11 has just left the room. And I've gone into that in great detail before. I'm just using it as an example of problem, reaction, solution. But when through the web you control the intelligence agencies, you control the governments, you control the media, and you control countries, and you control the manipulation of fake terrorists like Osama bin Laden, then you've got all the pieces you need to orchestrate the problem, reaction, solution, and to then use this to change society in the image that you have desired. And this is a classic. Adolf Hitler proposing the creation of the Gestapo in Nazi Germany. An evil exists that threatens every man, woman and child of this great nation. We must take steps to ensure our domestic security and protect our homeland. Or actually, word for word, what was said after 9/11. The Second World War, problem, reaction, solution. This is why it is no paradox, no coincidence or contradiction that the same people can be shown to have funded the Nazis, that funded the Americans and funded the British, overwhelmingly based around the cartel of the Rothschilds. They created Nazi fascism, they created Soviet communism and the capitalist world. They brought them together in conflict, the second conflict in a very short time, and afterwards the world was exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. Something must be done. This can't go on. What are they going to do about it? Gotcha. Because of all this conflict, all this war, it's terrible. Terrible. What we're going to do is we're going to centralize power with the United Nations, European Union, which was justified in many ways by let's stop European countries fighting among themselves because we'll trade. Well, they stopped fighting among themselves because they stopped orchestrating it. That's why the Bretton Woods Agreement with the World Bank and all that stuff all came in as a result of the Second World War. Then there's another version, which I now call no problem, reaction, solution. This is when you don't need a real problem, you just need the public perception of a problem, i.e. weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, i.e. human-caused climate change. And then you can offer a solution to a problem that doesn't actually exist, but if enough people think it does, well, you got them. Totalitarian tiptoe, as I call it, goes in conjunction with problem, reaction, solution. This is real simple. You start at A, you know you're going to Z, but you know if you go in a big leap, the change is going to be so big and so quick that people are going to go, what's happening? What's happening? Turn that television show off. What's happening? And so you go in steps, as big as you can get away with, but not so big that you get too much of a reaction. And as this quite rightly said, you really think it would be this obvious. Well, it's becoming that obvious now as we move along, but up to this point it hasn't been, unless you looked for it. The European Union was turned from a free trade zone, nothing to worry about, just for jobs, into what it is now, a centralized dictatorship, through the totalitarian tiptoe. And here is the founding father of the EU, as they call him, Jean Monnet, a Rothschild frontman. Europe's nations should be guided towards the superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irreversibly lead to federation. And the word fascism, which comes from this symbol, the fasci, from the Roman Empire, is individuality tied together and ruled by the axe head. The central point, European Union, precisely described. Globalization, which is the constant centralization of power, which is more and more power in the hands of fewer and fewer over more and more people. This is a totalitarian tiptoe. More and more, the globalized economy is taking over, so that every country is dependent on every other country, therefore has no power of individual action and individual decision-making. Free trade, which means freedom to exploit, which means you can get sweatshop workers here to make your stuff for a few cents, and then you ship it over here and you sell it for as much as you can get. It's called free trade. Everyone's in favour of free trade. You can't be against free trade. This is also part of this globalized centralization of power, which is designed to do this, and it increasingly is doing this. It means that if you're dependent within your country or your community on things outside of your influence, then everyone is dependent on everyone else, therefore has no self-sufficient ability to make decisions in their own lives and their own communities and their own countries. And the reason that they want to do this is they want to make everyone dependent on something outside their control, because dependency equals control. It's like abundance and scarcity. We live in a world which could be incredibly abundant. Nobody should be hungry on this planet, for goodness sake. Africa could feed the bloody world. It can't even feed itself. Why? Because of the manipulation of that continent by this crowd. And so we have all over the world, because there's no empathy, no consequences for them emotionally of their actions, we have manufactured scarcity, because abundance equals choice equals freedom. Scarcity equals dependency equals control. And that's why we have manufactured dependency. We have people hungry in a world of plenty. Coordinate 3, the cement. There are certain organizations, networks, rings, that act as the cement that holds the web together and holds people within the web together. Close to the spider people are the Rothschilds. And when I talk about the Rothschilds, one thing, I'm not talking about all people called Rothschild. The vast majority of people called Rothschild won't have a clue what other Rothschilds in that dynasty are doing. And secondly, I don't even mean only people called Rothschild. I mean the Rothschild bloodline, which has infiltrated many other enormous numbers of other families and groups, which then come to power under other names other than Rothschild. Because if the president's Rothschild, the bloody guy here is Rothschild, the bloody newsreader's Rothschild. What's going on? Instead of that, you have people under different names. So I'm talking about the Rothschild bloodline and the scions of that family, the people that run that family. Not everyone called Rothschild. There's a lot of people in that family called Rothschild who don't have a clue what's going on. But they, through these various cements, control all these different and various apparently unconnected organizations. Now, one of the cements, of course, is the secret society network. That's pretty obvious when you look at it. And these are some of the major ones, but there are even more exclusive ones as well. that operate in tiny, tiny cabals. Here, collectively, we're here to break the spell. We're here to break the spell on the human collective mind. What a great thing. What a great thing to play a part in. To break this spell and to stop this human experience becoming this. And in the next few years, like I say, they're going to throw everything in desperation, like the cornered rat, trying to hold on to a control system that's falling. This is where we're going to need to have this perspective of I am consciousness, I'm having an experience, because that will make it so much easier as we go through this transformation and challenge, because if we're in this world and of it, those people are going to find the next few years very, very difficult. Because they will not have a perspective of what's going on, except everything's going crazy, and my God, what's going to happen next? This is a great line from a song. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Isn't it amazing how when you no longer have anything to lose, the butterfly emerges? Because it's fear of loss that keeps us in servitude so much. And when you've got nothing left to lose, suddenly all that's left is freedom. And that is going to be a very powerful experience that a lot of people are going to have in this next period of challenge as this cusp moves on. Just when the caterpillar thought life was over, it became a butterfly. It's amazing that when you're in, so many people have told the story that it was in their lowest moment of despair that boom, something emerged and transformed them. Nothing left to lose, freedom. Okay, I'm waking up, so what do? Well, I would suggest that we all stop making bloody excuses. You know, we can all come to the conclusion that there's this control system and it's doing this, and what about the children, and what about the grandchildren, what's going on? And then the list of excuses why we actually can't do something today. Well, there's a game on, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that. Nothing is more important than focusing on what is happening, because everything comes from that. What can we do? We can refuse under any circumstances, no matter what the frickin' laws and the pressure and the imposition, we can refuse not to have the right to express our freedom of expression. Refuse under any circumstances to shut up. If vast numbers of people did that, this is the key to it all, what are they going to do? They don't have the numbers. We can stop focusing worship on celebrities and television and fake politicians and even sport. Not that I don't enjoy sport, but as long as it's there, peripheral vision, and not here. But worship, externalizing. And this is the biggest thing we can do. Human race, get off your knees. What are we doing down there? What are you doing? You're all that here's as it been and ever can be. Where have your bloody knees for? Well, only little me. No! If we get off our knees, the control system's over. Martin Luther King said, a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. And then there's the people in dark suits and uniforms. Hey, you got children and grandchildren and families as well. What are you doing serving a control system that wishes to impose a fascist state on your families? What are you going to say to your kids when the control system's in and it's controlling every facet of their bloody lives? Daddy, Mummy, Granddad, Grandma, what were you doing when the control system came in? I was helping to do it, dear. All the best with that conversation. What are we doing? Playing a part in, oh, it's me job. Well, get a bloody another one then. We got to do this to our children because it's my job. People, know thyself. When you know thyself, when you know you are consciousness, the consciousness is going to get a machine gun and start shooting at aspects of itself. Mind does that. Mind fights. Consciousness doesn't even contemplate it. And that doesn't include just people in uniform. It means fighting for freedom. What's all that about? Let's fight for freedom. Let's have a riot in Athens and let's kill 3 people from the banking system. Hey, the world's a better place now. What you fight, you become. We don't want to fight this system. We need to cease to cooperate with it. This is a meeting of mind. One mind on a horse, one mind with something in its hand trying to do damage. Oh, they're 2 sides. They're one mind without consciousness. Freedom fighters, contradiction in terms. Cognitive dissonance. As Martin Luther King said, the limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary but reactionary because it invites defeat. It involves an emotional catharsis, but it must be followed by a sense of futility. They want people to riot. It justifies more control. Nor do we need to meet this challenge with hate. That's playing away in the stadium we're trying to rid the world of. We don't need to hate these people. We just need to stop cooperating with them. Well, you know, if it's all the same with you, mate, I ain't doing it, okay? No hard feelings, bugger off. And then we've got this, the protest, the mass protest. I do understand that. It might have a part to play. But so many times these protests, they're what I call steam whistles. People go out in big protests with the banners and they kind of feel good about themselves and they go down the pub and say, at least we made our feelings felt. And then what happens? Bugger all. How many people marched in London against the invasion of Iraq, and what happened? Iraq was invaded. Protesting has such limitation. They don't care if we protest and walk through the streets and shout slogans and wave banners. They care if we come together, irrespective of colour, creed, gender, sexuality, any of it. Put our differences aside and unite behind what affects us all and all our families. This control system, this Orwellian agenda, is not trying to enslave black people or Jewish people or middle-class Americans or Hispanics or Australians or Indians. It's trying to enslave all of us. And what it wants to do is divide the target population against itself through these fake, ridiculous fault lines of race, religion, income bracket, so that we divide and rule the target population and they can pick us off one by one. They are terrified of us putting down those fake fault lines and coming together and uniting behind what we should all believe in: freedom for all, irrespective of who we are. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Someone else's injustice is our injustice. Because if we allow injustice there, eventually that injustice will come here anyway. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Silence is consent. Can you hear us now? Silence is consent. Because while we're silent on these impositions, the impositions just keep going on and on and on. By our silence, we are acquiescing, even agreeing to them being imposed. The end of silence, the end of acquiescence. If we want to be free, then don't run and hide. Because you can put your head in the sand and ignorance is bliss, but only for a while. You can put your head in the sand because there's a tornado coming. But the tornado's still coming, your bum's in the air. If you lift it out the sand, take responsibility and face it, you can take avoiding action. Ignorance is bliss with a head in the sand, and then, bang, your ass is spinning up in the clouds. Strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from an indomitable will. Mahatma Gandhi. Isn't it amazing how true that is? How you can see soldiers in uniform involved in truly extraordinary levels of physical courage and what we call heroism. And yet those same people are terrified of saying boo to another guy in uniform who's got more stripes on his arm than he has. Isn't it amazing? Where physical strength can come so easily and moral strength not. That's to do with the moon matrix and the way that our perception is manipulated. Turkish proverb, a lion sleeps in the heart of every brave man, every brave woman, and it's not really bravery. When you let go of fear, you don't need bravery, you don't need courage. Courage is overcoming fear. When you let go of fear, because I'm all that is, has been, and ever will be, what's the worst that can happen to me? I leave this physical body of limitation and I become all that is, has been, and ever will be, in full awareness that that is what I am. My God, I'm terrified that that might happen. I don't know how I'm going to cope with the terror of thinking that might happen. Know thyself. Again, recurring theme. Know thyself. We are consciousness. What is there to fear? Death? There is no death. Just putting the telescope down. We can meet this with fear. Oh my God, the police state! Or we can treat it with the emotion it deserves. What we have to do is comply. Compliance. That's what we have to do. Because if we don't comply, the control system's in desperate trouble. So it has to frighten us into complying for fear of not complying and the consequences that come from that. Well, hold on a second here. There's something about this that ain't right. When we look at this structure, we look there for the power. But why is that there? Because these silly sods are holding it up there. This is the power. They have to persuade them that they have the power, so they don't take the power to bring that crashing down. Fear of bringing it down through fear of not complying. Once we step out of the pyramid and refuse to cooperate with it, no violence necessary, by the way, then the pyramid starts to collapse because we're holding it together. It's a house of cards. That's all it is. Oh, it's the control system. It's a house of cards. Simple thing. People are being fined ridiculous amounts of money for putting their wheelie bins out on the wrong day or too many inches from the bloody curb. And people go, I don't know, what's the world coming to? It's the big brother state, innit? And then what you going to do? What time's that game show on, honey? Terrible and bloody thing, I don't know. What? What's that going to do? Don't tell me. That's Big Brother. It's little me that's causing that, not Big Brother. What if thousands of people, when someone is fined that money for that ridiculous thing, and like I say, they're just giving us more and more ridiculous things to see how much we'll take before we resist, and when we don't, they give us even more ridiculous things. What would happen if when someone is faced with that fine, thousands and thousands of people in that area put their wheelie bins out in the wrong place on the wrong day, week after week after week after week? The system couldn't cope. We have the numbers. And I see this, your vote is your voice, be heard. Bollocks it is. How can the vote be your voice when the people you're given the choice of voting for that have any chance of forming a government are standing on the same postage stamp of political policy and perception. There's no choice. We've reached a point now where the vote becomes a voice when we refuse to vote. We refuse to play the game anymore. What would have happened at this recent election, this farce, if tens of millions of people had said, we've had a bellyful, we're not voting, it only encourages them. We are not voting because we're going to make a statement that we know this system is rigged and we're having it no more. What would have happened in these days that have passed since that election? The whole focus of the media and everything would have been, bloody hell, what's going on? Why this mass refusal not to vote? Now we've got a debate going. Now we're looking at why people haven't voted because the system is rigged. Now the system has to bloody start to change because it's lost its credibility. But instead, the majority trotted along to vote because they said, well, if you don't vote for them, they might get in. It doesn't matter! They're masks on the same face. So what if they get in? Same thing will bloody happen. Comply! No! No, no! Not if it's enslaving me and my children and imposing on my freedom. Comply, leave your home now it's foreclosed. No, no, no. Let's follow this through, shall we? Millions of people in the world are losing their homes, being foreclosed and ending up homeless. Let's follow this through. Why have you lost your home, my friend? Because I can't pay me mortgage. Why can't you pay your mortgage? Because I lost my job. Why did you lose your job? Because the great banking collapse, they can't get this, they can't get my company went bust. And who's taking your home away and saying you've got to leave? The banks that caused the fricking problem, and we are leaving! What are we doing? What are we doing? No, we won't leave when the banks have caused the problem and now they're telling us to leave to take the assets. No, we won't. And people who are not being foreclosed need to support those that are. We're all in this together. Compulsory vaccinations. No, no, no. You must do what we say. We have changed the law. Not if you are imposing on my freedom and my rights to be a free citizen with a free voice. No, no, no. What are they going to do? They come out of Downing Street, whether it's Clegg and his mate bloody Cameron or it's bloody Obama or whoever it is in America, and they say, we've had a discussion and this is what we're going to do. What if vast numbers of people say, well, we ain't doing it? They have no power whatsoever. Their power comes in our acquiescence. Oh, but you can't defy the law. Okay, let's follow this through, shall we? By the way, while I'm talking, put your arms out and I'll put the handcuffs on, because that's what you're telling me. What you're telling me is this. We have no say in laws that are passed. And then we have to obey those laws. Well, okay, forget freedom then. Okay, what if they passed a law that says, we take your children away? Would you obey it? Well, no. So there is a line then. There is a line. It's just, where is that line? And if a law does not respect human freedom, it does not respect human justice, it doesn't respect fair play, we should not be acquiescing to those laws. We should be refusing to acquiesce. What we need is not compliance, we need a non-compliance, where we beat to a different drum and we dance to a different drum, where we refuse to acquiesce to this control system that seeks to enslave us even more than it already has. Non-compliance. Do this, comply. No. No. But we need to do it en masse. We do it with a smile on our face. We're consciousness, all that has been, ever will be. Why shouldn't we have a smile on our face? And smile and feel for these people who are enclosed in mind trying to enslave us. But we need to do it en masse. Because if we don't do it in numbers, then people get picked off. That's what's happening. I am all that is, has been, ever will be. You cannot grant me my freedom. It is not your gift to grant me my freedom or take it away, because I am, we all are freedom. Put another way, what would infinite consciousness do? Move perspective, little me, all that is. What would infinite consciousness do in the situations that we face, as against what would mind do? If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Absolutely right. You know what would change the world overnight? Is if we as a human race started doing what we knew to be right and just in the circumstances that we face, instead of making those decisions as so many people do and have long done, on basis of what is right for me in this circumstance that I face. Okay, the just thing to do might not be in the moment the best thing to do, but it's the just and right thing to do. And if we started doing what we knew to be right when we're faced with these decisions, as opposed to what we perceive is right for us in the moment, although doing what is right for us in the eternity, then everything would change. If we want a world of peace, then be peaceful. It sounds trite, it sounds simple, but it's devastatingly profound. That's what we need to be with each other. You know, we have people going on anti-war marches who are hurling abuse at each other in their relationships and stuff like that. If we war with each other, then the collective version of that is warring collectively. If we want peace, let's be peaceful. If we want a world of kindness, then let's be kind. And it must come, for goodness sake. It must, if we're all kind to each other. We live in a kind world. Martin Luther King said, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. And when enough of us take that stance, everything changes. The revolution is not a revolution of weapons, it's not a revolution of fighting, it's not a revolution of hatred, it's a revolution of perception, because everything changes. I am a lion then. I'm not the lamb I kept seeing in the mirror and the world kept telling me I was. And then that expresses itself out into the true nature of who we are. And miracles become possible. We're going into the epoch of what we perceive as miracles. It's just a greater understanding of the way everything works. And the system must fail when that happens. We're being offered, the truth vibrations are offering us in this time, the chance to open the key to our minds, the key to our hearts, which have long been closed by so many people. The key to the freedom on a level that we cannot comprehend, because until we expand our consciousness, we cannot be aware of the true nature of what freedom is. It's not even what we perceive in this world. Enough of this suppression, enough of this slavery, enough of this enslavement of the few by the many. As the poet Shelley said, rise like lions after slumber in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. Enough! It's time to fly. It's time to fly. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Let's get on with it. you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you.